G'day and welcome back to the channel. So today's video is all about neck strength. From a physiotherapy perspective, neck pain, neck stiffness and neck dysfunction is one of the most common things that I would come across day to day clinically. So I wanted to put together a video with some common exercises that I would prescribe to people to hopefully help improve how your neck feels and functions. Make sure that you take these exercises very slowly and only progress them as you feel ready to. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to throw at you a couple of unique neck strength exercises that you may not necessarily have thought of before that I find are really helpful clinically. And the very last thing that I'll go through in the video is there's a product that I found on Instagram. I reached out to this company to see if they would be happy for me to test it out. And I want to show you how you can integrate something like this into your neck strength training just to make your neck function that little bit better overall. But we'll circle back to that at the end. And so getting into the first layer of exercises, there's four main movements that we want to focus on. We want to focus on your neck's ability to flex, extend, bend from side to side, and rotate. So the first one we want to do just requires you to lie down on your back. Now you can do this on the floor, you can do this in bed in the morning, but we're going to target the muscles at the front of your neck. So what I'd like you to do is if you can grab your hand and place that underneath your head, keep your head in the exact same spot, but just take your hand away so that there's a gap between your head and the surface that you're on. Now what we want to do with each one of these exercises is we want to aim to hold this position from anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds, and we're going to do 3 rounds of this particular exercise. Now obviously if you feel you get to 15 seconds and you feel you've had enough, then obviously pop your hand back again and relax. As I've said, we just want to meet you at your level today, and we'll build upon that as you feel you do this more often. But being in a good posture, taking that hand away, aiming for that 30-second mark, 45 seconds, 60 seconds. But you might find the muscles at the front of your neck, potentially behind your throat, will really start to activate and hopefully start to fatigue. But then when you get to that 60 seconds, chuck your hand back in again, relax back onto that, and we can repeat that process for another 2 sets. Now, if you want to speed this process up, instead of doing 3 sets in this position and then going into the next ones, I find it more convenient to rotate through each one of these exercises 3 times. So once you've done this one, the next one is we want to get you to roll onto your side. Again, having a pillow or your hand here, just so you feel supported. Once again, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing a nice straight posture. We want you to be up nice and tall so that you can maintain this position. So when you take your hand away, you're using all of those muscles at the side of your neck to hold you into this position. So once again, we want to hold this for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, as long as you feel comfortable. Same thing again, as soon as you've found that you've reached your limit, pop your hand back in again, take the tension off that. We can wait, do this again another 2 times, or we can keep rotating and pop onto your hands and knees. So now this time in this position, again, we want you to be nice and tall and stretched out. Take your head away from your tailbone as much as you can. Same thing again, we're just going to stay in this position for another 60 seconds. So you might find that this one more than any probably feels the most easy, but if you can get to that 60-second mark, we then want to move on to the next one. So again, we can move on to the other one and face the other direction. Same deal, do this as well, before rolling back around again and starting that process all over again. And those simple exercises, those different variations, are ones that you can do first thing in the morning. If you're watching some TV at the end of the day, you can just lie on the floor and just rotate around those exercises as much as you feel comfortable. But I want to stress, we want to make sure that you can tick off a few rounds of those specific exercises before you then move on to the more resisted or the fancier ones that we'll get to. So it's really important that even if you get to that 30 seconds, see how you feel upon waking the next day to get a strong sense of how your neck tolerated these exercises before pushing it a little bit further and progressing it beyond that. Because once you've mastered the basics to begin with, we can then add in the rotation components just to challenge your tissues a little bit further, but also to hit different parts of the anatomy that those strict motions that we did before may not necessarily target as much. And how that looks, if you're doing your flexion exercise where you're in a good posture, you take your hand away. Once you feel you've developed the comfortability and the tolerance and the capacity to be in this position, we can then get you to start to rotate around as far as you feel comfortable, just slowly in both directions for the entirety of that minute. We can do the same thing with your side lying and your lateral flexors, where once you're in that good posture again and you're comfortable that you can tolerate this shape for about 60 seconds, we can then maintain the same axis and try and rotate around that position all the way up and then around that same spine all the way way down as far as you feel comfortable for, again, the entirety of that 60 seconds. We can do the same thing as you rotate around to your extended position. Again, good posture, stretching yourself out nice and tall. Again, this might feel the easiest one, but we then want to get into the position where we can get you to rotate from one side, rotate to the other side as far as you feel comfortable. And doing it that way is just a nice way to round out all the different ranges of motion that your neck should be able to express normally, and then trying to add some strength along the course of that range. And so once you spend a session or two feeling out how those exercises feel for you, as they become a little bit too easy, we then need to start to add some resistance to those positions just to keep prompting your tissue to keep progressively getting stronger. We still want to focus on attacking the flexion, the extension, the side bending, and the rotational shapes. And often this is as simple as taking your hand and resisting those motions. So with the muscles at the front of your neck, if you don't mind looking ridiculous, we can place your hand on top of your forehead. And again, trying to be up nice and tall in a good posture. We're not trying to push your head into your hand for this exercise. We're trying to maintain that good posture and use your hand to apply some gentle pressure to the front of your head, asking those same muscles to tense up and activate. Same deal, you can hold this for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or as long as you feel your arm can push for. And same things we did before, we can continually do 3 sets of this, or we can rotate through the different exercises and then circle back through all of this 3 times. So once you spend some time doing that, we can then move your hand to the side of your head, again maintaining a neutral posture, pushing into the side of your head, not letting your head bend, but just making the tissue at the side of your neck work. We're looking for that fatigue, again 30, 60 seconds. Then once you've done that, you can rotate around again. You can have your hand at the back of your head. Again, good posture, up nice and tall. Try and push your head forwards for 30 to 60 seconds. And then obviously come around to the opposite side, do the same thing. But then what we also want to get you to do is we want to work on the rotational motion at the same time. So like you do when we get you to push your head into your hand to the side, trying to bend your neck into your hand, we can do the same thing, but trying to resist that rotation. Now, the interesting thing about rotation is that the rotation is very closely linked to your eye movement. So if I'm in a good posture and I rotate my head into my hand, trying to look over my shoulder, just make sure that you're not just moving with your eyes. It's really easy to try and sort of feel like you're pushing sideways, but also looking to the side to give you the impression that you're twisting your head, when in actual fact, you may just be tilting and looking at the same time. So what I want you to focus on doing is keep your hand here. This time, instead of pushing your hand into your head, and imagine that you're trying to rotationally push it away. It's okay if you look to the side as well, but if you're doing it with the rotation, you feel a different set of muscles working than you would have if you're just tilting your head to the side. So again, add that into the different variations of your motion. And the benefit of using your hand is you can push or resist as hard as you feel comfortable for that 30 to 60 seconds. But as it turns out, if you find that it's a bit taxing to have your hand there, or you want to try and make it a little bit more convenient, we can do the same set of exercises with a TheraBand. But the only difference is you absolutely look ridiculous when you do this. So as I've mentioned, as you've started the gentle process of reintroducing neck strength into your routine, and you've ticked off the boxes where you can do those isometric holds quite comfortably in all directions, and you feel like you can tolerate a bit of resistance from your hand as well, if that resistance from your hand is either too easy or a little bit less convenient to do consistently, you can absolutely use a band of some sort to try and scale things a little bit higher. Now, I'm going to use a power band, which has a little bit of force to it, but you're more than welcome to use a TheraBand or TheraTube as well. And because we're putting something around your head, it may also be worthwhile using a hat or a beanie or something over the top first, just so this doesn't dig into your face. So all we essentially want to get you to do is place this band in place of where your hand might be. So I'm going to make myself a neat little headband, and all I'm trying to do here is popping it onto my forehead, maintaining a good posture, and then stepping out as far as I feel comfortable. Same deal again. You can go out as far as you want to with as much neck tension as you feel happy to tolerate. And we just want to stay here for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. As we've done previously, we can rotate around again once you've done that, making sure that the band doesn't sort of slide off. But again, maintain that neutral posture is important. Then stepping out with as much tension as you feel happy to have. Then hanging out here until you can fatigue those muscles at the side of your neck. With extension, it's the same thing. We're just facing the other way, placing that sort of midpoint, not quite at the base of your skull, just holding onto it so it doesn't sort of slide around. Good posture, leaning back into it, feeling the muscles at the back of the neck working, and again, looking for that fatigue. Now, from a rotational perspective, it's a little bit more awkward to do it this way, but The rubber from the band can sort of grip your skin and make this a bit easier. If we start on a little bit of an oblique angle here, so it's not coming straight out in front, it's not coming straight out to the side, it's kind of on about a 45-degree angle, I can sort of hold this band a little bit just to sort of create that extra tension sort of through the side of my head. What I'm really trying to do here is I'm trying to maintain that same shape and then rotate into the band. And again, this is a lot more pressure going through my head and neck than when I had my hand there. In a perfect world, we do want to try and get you to rotate through that range as far as you feel comfortable, but it's a little bit harder to do with the band because the band tends to slide around. And with that in mind, that's one of the reasons why the product that we'll go through toward the end of the video can be quite beneficial, because it does allow you to get into the rotational aspects of your neck in ways that bands like this maybe don't. But whether you're using your hand, whether you're using a band, the goal is still to make sure that you're in a great posture and that you are at a level that you feel is specific to your current tolerance. See how you wake up the next day, make sure that you don't feel too irritated, hopefully you feel a bit looser, a little bit stronger, and maybe functioning a little bit better, which is a sure sign that you can then step it up that little bit more the next time. The next exercise I want to touch on is one of those more left of center exercises that I think is really important to do to at the very least understand that your neck doesn't function in isolation on its own, that it's just a part of a bigger piece of machinery. And the exercise that's really important for you to do is just a basic shrug exercise. Now, the reason why shrugs are quite beneficial for neck health is that, again, by being in a really nice posture with your shoulders back in a good position, by taking your shoulders and your shoulder blades straight up and down, you may see that the muscles in my neck are starting to work at the same time. We don't necessarily want to look at you as individual muscles. We want to focus on movements, because those movements will require different things from different muscles. But once again, if we can get you to fatigue the muscles that run from your shoulders up into your neck, that might take 3 sets of 10, it might take 3 sets of 15 at a weight that you feel is appropriate for that level, then what you should notice is it just rounds out the strength and the function of the muscles around your neck. And with that in mind, the next exercise is that left of center one that I think everybody needs to feel comfortable doing to really make that neck more robust and more functionally optimal. The left of center exercise that I think is really important to do is a headstand. I found clinically that progressively working to feeling comfortable doing a headstand can be a fundamentally useful thing for people to do who want a stronger neck and better functioning neck tissue. The reason being is that when you put your head on the ground, much like when you put your foot on the ground or your hands on the ground, the pressure that comes from that asks a lot of different musculature to stabilize. We obviously don't need you to jump straight into a headstand and hope for the best. There are some gentle sort of variations that we can scale that can get you there and progressively work up to feeling comfortable doing a headstand. And the simplest one to start with is just being on your hands and knees. All I want you to do is just pop your forehead onto the ground. Now, because your hands are here, you can regulate how much or how little pressure you put through your forehead. But what you'll instantly notice is as soon as your forehead hits the ground, you'll feel a huge amount of tension through the musculature at the front of your neck, maybe a little bit at the back, but definitely at the front. And all we want to get you to do is just hang out here again for 15, 30, 60 seconds. If you can feel comfortable being here, what you can do to progress this is you can lift one hand off the ground so that you've only got one other point of contact apart from your head. This will increase the amount of tension that you need to put through your neck to stabilize. But again, we only want you at the level that feels the most comfortable for you. From here, because we want to bias a lot of the other neck musculature as well, the further up the pressure goes. So for me, if I'm on my hands and knees here, if I lift my bottom up a little bit, the further back in my head the pressure goes, the more the tissue around my neck will have to work to hold me here. And again, just being here for 30, 60 seconds, making sure that I'm not sort of in a slouchy posture, that I'm relatively tall and straight through my spine. We can take the same approach, 30 to 60 seconds. We can also take a hand away to make those muscles work a little bit more. If you feel really up to it, you can definitely take 2 hands away. But again, I only need you to be at the level that feels the most comfortable for you. And as you can probably see with my face, you can get a little bit red. So if you're not used to being in this position, if you have some issues with your blood pressure even, make sure that you get permission from your relevant health professionals to do this. But ultimately what we want to progress you to is the point where you can be up as tall as you are comfortable in a good posture. You can certainly have your knees onto your elbows and just hang out here. But eventually, we want to make sure that you go as tall and as upright as you can. It's going to test out my balance so that you can hang out in this position again for 30 or 60 seconds. And you'll very quickly feel every single muscle in your neck,
anything that attaches your head to your neck, anything that attaches your shoulders to your upper back to your neck will straight away work and work quite hard and potentially fatigue quite hard as well.
If you can take the time to progressively work your way up to that position, but for me clinically, progressively working to the stage where you have pressure through your head and neck is an amazing way to capture all of the musculature at the same time. The stronger your neck is, the better everything functions. And as I said, the headstand is just a really novel way to get a lot of that good function in a short amount of time. And so the very last thing that I wanted to touch on in this video is that there are devices out there that can help you improve the strength and function of your neck. Now this device here is called the Iron Neck, and full disclosure, so when scrolling through Instagram, I saw ads for this pop up on my feed. And as someone who is always on the lookout for tools and techniques and perspectives that can help improve the way that I think about physiotherapy and injuries and pain, but also improve my ability to help people resolve their injuries and pain, something like this really stood out to me. I reached out to this company to see if they wanted to work together so I could test out this product for myself. I didn't pay for this, but I found it quite an interesting way to strengthen neck tissue. And the idea behind this is similar to the TheraBand exercise or the power band exercise we did before. When you use resistance to challenge our tissue to be in different positions, ultimately asking that tissue to fatigue and to come back stronger the next day. And as I mentioned with the power bands or the TheraBands, I find rotational strength to be a really important component of a healthy neck, but it also happens to be one that's quite hard to target and hard to train with traditional techniques. But the Iron Neck, and this is why I was really keen to test this out, is this does so with ease. And essentially how this looks is by placing this halo around your head, tightening the chin strap. What I can do with this is having a bit of tension through the provided band attached to the halo. Being in a good posture, I can very easily do two things. I can maintain this shape and I can rotate, keeping my spine in the same position. And by doing so, I'm attacking all the same muscles that I attacked with those more basic isometric positions that we did at the start of the video. But what I really like about a product like this is what I can do, and again, I can come to that sort of 45-degree angle again, set myself in a good posture, but then I can do rotational movements with relative ease, making sure that I take my neck through full range of motion, or whatever range of motion that I have at the time, and really target that rotational strength more than anything that I've seen so far. So for me, the Iron Neck is quite an amazingly simple and useful way to strengthen some of those muscles beyond the things that we've already gone through. So while the good folk at Iron Neck were nice enough to send me one of these, if this is something that you might also be interested in purchasing, I'll leave a link in the description below. They were nice enough to also give me a discount code that you can use to make that happen. But at the end of the day, whether you use a piece of equipment like this, which is relatively fancy, or you're going through the basics of improving your neck strength, you've got to be at a level that feels comfortable for you, and you've got to progress that as you feel like it starts to become too easy. But as always, I genuinely hope that this was insightful and helpful. If it was, let me know down below. Subscribe and like the video if you did find that was the case. But once again, I genuinely hope that helped, and I'll see you next time.